72-year-old Hattie Graves was humming a gospel tune in her kitchen, putting the finishing touches on a peach cobbler for a son she hadn't seen in 6 years. She didn't know that 3 blocks away, a patrol car was turning onto her street with its headlights killed. She didn't know that her son Elias, a Tier 1 operator with the 1st SFOD, was pulling his rental truck into her driveway, carrying a bouquet of hydrangeas. 2 worlds were about to collide in a tragedy that would burn the corrupt foundation of Oak Haven, Louisiana, to the ground. Justice is rarely swift, but when it arrives wearing the face of a man with nothing left to lose, it is absolute. October 14, 2023, 6:45 p.m. Oak Haven, Louisiana. The humidity stuck to your skin like a second layer of clothing. Heavy, suffocating heat that smelled of swamp water, pine needles, and impending rain. For Elias Graves, it smelled like childhood, like the past he had spent 20 years running from. At 42, Elias didn't look like a man who existed in the civilian world. He was 6'4" of corded muscle, scar tissue, and hypervigilance. As a master sergeant in Delta Force, he'd spent his adult life in the darkest corners of Syria, Afghanistan, and the Horn of Africa, specializing in high-value target extraction. He was a ghost, a scalpel the government used when it needed a problem to disappear quietly. But today, he wasn't Sergeant Graves. He was just Elias. On the passenger seat sat a bouquet of blue hydrangeas, his mother's favorite, and a velvet box with a gold locket holding a photo of him and his late father, a peace offering for missing the last 3 Christmases. He turned onto Sycamore Street. The neighborhood hadn't changed much. Modest single-story houses, porch swings, oak trees buckling the sidewalks. It was a quiet, predominantly black neighborhood slowly shrinking under gentrification pressure from the north side. He parked 2 houses down, wanting to surprise her. As he stepped out, the air shifted, not the weather, the silence. This street was usually alive with kids and music. Tonight it was dead quiet. Then he saw it. A black and white cruiser parked diagonally across his mother's driveway. No lights, no siren, driver's door open. Adrenaline hit him like ice water. He moved fast and low along the neighbor's hedge. Not running. Running draws attention. Inside, the atmosphere was shattering. Hattie Graves, barely 5'2" with silver hair and a neat bun, stood in her hallway facing Officer Derek Cole, 35, thick-necked, a man who wore his badge like a crown and his gun like a threat. Behind him, rookie Officer Brett Higgins hovered nervously, hand near his holster. "I asked you a question, Hattie," Cole barked. "Where is he?" "I told you." "Officer, I don't know who you're talking about. I live alone. My son is overseas." "We got a tip," Cole sneered, invading her space. "Anonymous tip says you're harboring a fugitive. Dion Little D. Washington. Heard he ran in here." There was no Dion. There was no tip. Cole and Higgins had been bored and knew Hattie's grandson had had run-ins with the law years back. They were fishing. "Get out of my house," Hattie said, pointing toward the door, "or I'm calling the sheriff." Cole laughed and slapped her hand away. "You don't point fingers at me." Hattie stumbled back, shocked. "You struck me," and turned to grab the landline. "Put the phone down," Cole shouted, grabbing her arm and spinning her around. She flailed, her hand connecting with his chest. A desperate push, not a hit. "Assault on an officer." "Gun," Cole roared. There was no gun. Hattie held a telephone receiver. But Higgins, hearing "gun," panicked and drew his weapon too, training abandoned for fear. Outside, 10 yards from the door, Elias heard the shout and broke into a sprint. He hit the porch steps as a .40 caliber round tore through the night. He kicked the front door open and swept the room in milliseconds. Kitchen empty, pot boiling over. Hallway. Cole standing over a prone figure, weapon drawn, smoke curling from the barrel. Higgins 3 feet back, shaking. The victim, Hattie Graves, on the floor, her floral apron soaking red, gasping the wet, rattling sound of a collapsing lung. A sound Elias had heard 1,000 times on battlefields, never once expecting to hear it from her. He froze for the only heartbeat of his career. That was his mother. Cole spun, startled, and saw a threat, not a grieving son. "Freeze, PD." He raised his weapon. Elias didn't freeze. The part of his brain that followed rules shut off. He closed the distance before Cole could reacquire his sight picture, chopped down on Cole's wrist to redirect the barrel into the drywall. The gun discharged into the floor, then drove a palm strike into Cole's chin, a kinetic strike built to shut off the brainstem. Cole crumpled unconscious before he hit the carpet. Higgins fumbled his gun. Elias stepped inside his guard, wrenched the pistol free, and Field stripped it in 3 seconds, dumping the pieces. He pinned Higgins against the wall, forearm at his throat. "Did you shoot her?" "No, God, no, it was Cole. She had a phone." He said gun, but it was a phone. Elias saw the truth in the rookie's terrified eyes and released him. He dropped to his knees beside Hattie. The smell of peach cobbler mixed with blood and cordite. "Mama." He applied pressure, already knowing as a combat medic that the bullet had nicked the aorta, the bleed catastrophic and internal. Her eyes fluttered, hazy. "Eli, you came." "I'm here, Mama. Ambulance is coming." A lie. He hadn't called one. He knew it wouldn't matter. "My boy," she whispered, touching his cheek, her skin already cooling. "You look tired." "Then, don't go. I brought you hydrangeas. They're in the truck." "That's nice," she breathed. "Don't let hate eat you, Eli. Promise." The breath left her. Her hand slid from his cheek to the floor. Elias checked her pulse twice. Nothing. He closed her eyes gently and kissed her forehead, then stood and turned to the officers. Higgins cowered in the corner. Cole, stirring, looked up and saw not tears but a void beneath them. "You're dead." Cole slurred, reaching for his ankle piece. "You attacked a cop." Elias didn't move to strike again. He simply spoke. "My name is Master Sergeant Elias Graves. You just killed Hattie Graves. You didn't just kill an old woman. You killed my anchor to this world." Cole paused, hand on his holster. "Military," he scoffed. "Doesn't matter. You're in my town now, boy. I'm the law." "Not anymore," Elias said. Sirens wailed in the distance. If Elias stayed, he'd be arrested, the blue wall would rise, a gun would be planted on his mother, and the story would vanish into paperwork. He'd seen the system swallow better men. He looked at Higgins. "Tell them the truth, or I come for you first." To Cole, "You better pray they keep you in solitary, because if you walk free, I will dismantle everything you love." Elias took the surveillance hard drive Hattie had installed after a break-in years ago, pocketed the weapon he'd stripped, and slipped out the back door as flashing lights painted the lawn red and blue. Elias Graves was gone. The ghost was active. 9 p.m. Oak Haven Sheriff's Department. The interrogation room smelled of stale coffee and bleach. Derek Cole sat with an ice pack on his swollen jaw. Sheriff Jim Bullard walked in, a man in his 60s, guts straining his uniform, eyes without warmth, the architect of Oak Haven's corruption. "You really stepped in it, Derek." Press is crawling the lobby. They heard Delta Force and started foaming at the mouth. "He attacked me. He's a trained killer." "She had a telephone, Derek. A landline receiver. We found it next to her body." Cole slammed the table. "It looked like a gun. And her son, he's a psycho." Bullard sat heavily. "Here's the situation. Dead elderly woman, clean record. A decorated special forces operator on the run. And you, my lead narcotics officer, with a body count getting harder to hide. But we control the narrative." His eyes locked on Cole's. "We processed the scene after the son fled. Found a .38 snub nose under the couch, unregistered, filed serial number, with Hattie Graves' prints on it." Cole understood immediately, a planted throw-down gun. The blue wall was rising to protect its own. "She was armed," Cole said, smiling. "I knew it." "And the son," Bullard continued, "is a fugitive with acute PTSD who snapped, killed his own mother, then attacked officers who arrived on scene. You're the hero, Derek. You tried to save her." "What about the camera?" Cole asked, panic rising. "The hard drive's missing. The son took it," Bullard said. "If he releases that footage, he won't get the chance. I've put out a bolo, armed and dangerous, shoot on sight approved. State troopers and FBI are involved, but I'm keeping the feds on a short leash. We find him first, and he doesn't make it to a courtroom." October 15th, 2023. The Atchafalaya Basin, 5 miles outside town. The swamp was alive, cypress trees rising from black water like skeletal fingers draped in moss. It was a place where things disappeared, and Elias was comfortable here. He'd sunk the rental truck into a bog and now sat in an old duck hunting blind from his childhood, his go bag beside him, clothes, a first aid kit, a satellite phone, $5,000 cash, a K-bar knife. No firearm yet, a temporary problem. He plugged in the hard drive and watched the footage. The kick, the slap, the shooting, his mother's final proud stand. He didn't scream or punch anything. He went still. His heart rate dropped to 45 beats per minute. This wasn't grief anymore. These were mission parameters. He dialed a number that didn't exist in any directory. Sierra 19er. Code black. A distorted voice answered. Elias, we heard. CNN saying you snapped, that you killed your mother. You know the truth, Viper. I have the video. I'm not releasing it yet. Why not? We can clear your name in 10 minutes. If I clear my name now, they fire Cole. Maybe he gets a trial in 2 years. Maybe he walks. I don't want his badge, Viper. I want his life. I want the whole network. Elias, you go down this road. The unit can't help you. It's treason on domestic soil. I'm already dead. I need financials on Bullard and Cole. I need to know where they keep their dirt. Give me an hour, Viper said. Happy hunting. Elias took his father's locket from his pocket, opened it, and placed it around his neck. I'm sorry, Papa, but I have to burn it all down. October 16th, 2023. Oak Haven. News vans lined the streets. Hero soldier snaps. Mother dead. Manhunt underway. Cole was being treated like a celebrity at a cop bar. Other officers buying him rounds. Though his hands shook and he couldn't shake the memory of Elias's void-like eyes. Leaving the bar near midnight, he reached his lifted Silverado and froze. Sitting on the driver's seat, perfectly centered, was a single blue hydrangea. Cole spun, gun drawn, screaming into empty darkness. The truck had been locked. There was no forced entry. He crushed the flower under his boot and sped home, checking his mirrors every few seconds. Rookie Brett Higgins hadn't slept in 3 days, haunted by the lie he'd signed onto in the police report. Alone on his couch with whiskey, his power died. His phone lit, not with a flashlight, but with the hallway footage playing. He dropped it, backing against the wall. A shadow detached from the corner. Elias, in black tactical gear from a surplus cache, balaclava on, eyes visible. Don't reach for the weapon, Brett. I cleared it while you were in the bathroom. Higgins slid down the wall sobbing. Please, I didn't shoot. I didn't mean to. I know, Elias said, sitting backward on a chair, facing him. You're a coward, but you're not a killer. Not yet. Are you going to kill me? If I wanted you dead, you'd already be dying from what I slipped in your whiskey. I didn't. Higgins gagged. Relax, it's water. Listen, Cole and Bullard will hang you out to dry the moment the truth surfaces. They'll say you shot my mother. Cole said he'd protect me. Cole protects Cole. I'm giving you a choice. Die protecting a lie, or help me bury them. Higgins wept. How? They own everything. Viper sent me the financials. Bullard runs a cartel distribution ring out of the impound lot. Confiscated drugs in, street product out. Cole's his delivery boy. Tonight there's a shipment. $500,000 in cash coming back. I need the radio encryption keys, and I need you to drive your patrol car tonight. Where? The impound lot. We're going to rob the sheriff. October 17th, 2023, 11:45 p.m. Oak Haven impound lot. Chain link and razor wire ringed rows of seized vehicles. A corrugated warehouse served as the evidence locker. Inside, Bullard and Cole oversaw a cash count with a cartel courier stacking bricks on a table. Suddenly the lights died. Generator. Go check it. Bullard barked. Outside, a deputy walking toward the fuse box never saw the figure dropping from the rafters above. Elias, using a garrote wire, choking him silent and lowering him gently. Inside, the silence stretched too long. Then Cole's radio crackled. Not dispatch, but a recording. Hattie's voicemail. Be safe, baby. Come home soon. I love you. Cole's blood ran cold. It's him. The bay doors exploded inward as Higgins's empty patrol cruiser, a brick taped to the gas pedal, siren wailing, light bar blinding, smashed into the cash table, sending bills flying like confetti. Cole and Bullard opened fire on the empty car. Smoke canisters dropped from the catwalks, filling the room white. In the chaos, Elias moved like a shark, disarmed the courier with a bone-breaking twist, kicked Bullard's knee, shattering the patella. Cole fired wildly into the smoke. Elias appeared behind him, whispered, "Not yet," and pistol whipped him unconscious. When the smoke cleared 10 minutes later, Elias and the $500,000 were gone. Pinned to the unconscious sheriff's chest with a knife was a note. Interest payment. The principal is due soon. October 18th, 2023, 8 a.m. Oak Haven General, VIP Wing. Bullard lay with his knee in a brace, groggy but sharp with fear. A man in a bespoke suit, Silas Thorne, fixer for the regional syndicate laundering the cartel's money, stood by the window. You lost $500,000, Jim, and let one grieving son dismantle your operation in a night. He's Delta, a ghost. I need help, Silas. If he leaks the financial records, you're dead. The cartel thinks you staged the robbery yourself. We're bringing in Blackwood systems, Thorne said. Ex-SEALs, ex-Rangers, men who don't worry about Miranda rights. They land in an hour. They'll hunt Mr. Graves down and kill him. Then, Jim, you and I are going to talk about your retirement. Noon. The safe house, a condemned church basement, sheltered by Reverend Thomas, an old friend of Hattie's. Elias watched a private jet land and black SUVs roll out. They're coming for you, son, the Reverend said. Let them come, Elias replied, typing a final command. It's time to light the match. At 12:05, 2 emails went out. The first, to every major outlet, the DOJ and the NAACP. The raw, unedited footage from Hattie's hallway. Subject line, Murder of Hattie Graves, the truth. The second, to a darker corner of the internet. The encrypted server of the cartel itself, containing scanned pages of Bullard's private ledger, proving he'd skimmed 20% off every shipment for 5 years. Elias leaned back. Checkmate. By 12:30, the video had exploded online. The slap, the lie about the gun, Hattie's final words. 5 million views in 20 minutes. Protests formed outside the sheriff's department. 50 people, then 200, then 1,000. Cole watched his own face on the news, an anchor calling it a state-sponsored execution. They know, he whispered. Bullard called, screaming for riot gear. The feds will take ours, Cole said. The mob is here now. Bullard added that Blackwood had tracked Elias's signal to the old church. Cole grabbed his rifle and slipped out the back exit instead of the front line. He was running. 1 p.m., the church. 6 Blackwood mercenaries, led by a scarred operator named Kincaid, breached with flashbangs and swept the sanctuary. Then the basement, empty except a laptop counting down. 3, 2, 1. Trap, Kincaid yelled, diving back as claymores Elias had rigged to the support beams collapsed the floor above, burying the team under pews and debris. From the bell tower, Elias watched through a stolen sniper scope, put a 50 caliber round through the engine block of their lead SUV, then radioed Kincaid's frequency. You're out of your depth. Go home while you still can. He rappelled down and vanished into the treeline. He wasn't finished. He was heading for Cole. 3 p.m. Oak Haven Town Square was burning. Tear gas, overturned cars, the bar in flames, chants of no justice, no peace. Elias moved through it hooded and masked, hunting Cole. He spotted Higgins standing atop a cruiser with a megaphone, ordering officers to stand down. I sent the files to the FBI. They're 10 minutes out. The rookie had flipped, but Cole was gone. Elias checked the GPS tracker he'd slipped into Cole's vest during the raid, moving fast, northbound on Highway 1. 3:30 p.m. Highway 1. Cole, doing 90 with cash and a fake passport, thought he was free, until a logging truck filled both lanes ahead. He swerved, spun into a ditch, and slammed into a cypress. He stumbled out bleeding as the truck's door opened and Elias stepped out, not in tactical gear now, but his Delta Force dress blues, metals gleaming, looking like the angel of death. Stay back. Cole raised his gun, hands shaking. You have nowhere to go, Elias said, walking calmly forward. The feds have the airport. The troopers have the borders. And the cartel has the sheriff. They pulled him from the hospital 10 minutes ago. He's not going to jail, Derek. He's going to a hole in the desert. Cole's resolve cracked. The cartel was worse than prison. I'll shoot you, he warned. You had a gun in my mother's hallway, Elias said, not slowing. You had the badge, and you used it to bully a 70-year-old woman. 10 feet away, Cole fired, wild from the crash, missing by 3 feet. Before he could fire again, a shot rang from the treeline. Cole screamed, his shoulder exploding in red mist. Brett Higgins stood there, service weapon raised, smoke trailing from the barrel. He'd followed the tracker too, and taken the shot to save Elias. It's over, Cole. You're done. Cole collapsed, sobbing, begging Elias not to let the cartel take him. Elias stood over him, capable of ending it right there. No one would blame him. He pulled his mother's locket from his pocket, opened it, remembered her words. Don't let hate eat you. The predator receded, the sun remained. He kicked Cole's gun away, tossed Higgins a pair of zip ties. Cuff him. By the book. For PM. The aftermath. FBI SUVs and state troopers converged as a helicopter thundered overhead. Elias raised his hands and knelt without resistance. Higgins told the agents Elias had surrendered and saved his life. Special Agent Ross approached, studying the uniform, the medals, the man, and lowered her team's weapons. We've seen the video. We have everything. Then you know who the real criminals are, Elias said. Ross nodded and had her team take the screaming, bleeding Cole into custody. Am I under arrest? Elias asked. Technically, you assaulted a dozen officers, robbed an evidence locker, and blew up a church basement, Ross said, almost smiling. But the Pentagon just called. Your unit classified your presence here as an official training exercise testing domestic terror response. Viper had come through. Get out of here, Sergeant, before I change my mind. But Graves, don't come back to Oak Haven. Elias told Higgins. You're a good cop, Brett. Stay that way. Then walked toward the tree lean and the freedom of the shadows. 6 months later, the Oak Haven scandal was the biggest story of the year. Bullard was never found. Rumor placed him in a barrel somewhere in the Sonoran Desert, a guest of the cartel. Cole recovered from his shoulder wound in a prison hospital and was sentenced to life without parole for second-degree murder, civil rights violations, and racketeering. His requests for protective custody denied. Blackwood's mercenaries were indicted on federal weapons charges. Higgins was promoted to sergeant, leading a community relations program in minority neighborhoods. The city settled a lawsuit with Hattie's estate for $15 million, money that went to build the Hattie Graves Community Center, with a kitchen that taught at-risk kids to bake. In a small coastal town in Maine, a man named Elias sat on a porch with a cup of coffee, reading about the settlement. He smiled, looking at the blue hydrangeas growing in a pot beside him. Peach cobbler tonight, Mama, he whispered to the wind. The wind seemed to whisper back. October 20th, 2023. The Mexican border. Bullard sat zip-tied in a dusty Range Rover. The cartel had extracted him from the hospital before the FBI could arrive. He'd hoped his partners were saving him for a quiet retirement. That hope died when they stopped in a desolate stretch of desert. Silas Thorne stepped out with 2 enforcers. We audited the books, Jim. You've stolen over $3 million from the family. I can pay it back. It's not about the money anymore. It's the disrespect. You brought heat on a national distribution hub. You're a liability. They handed him a shovel. Start digging, Sheriff. It's going to be a long afternoon. The karma he'd evaded for decades had finally arrived, holding a shovel. November 5th, 2023. Angola State Penitentiary. Cole, stripped of his name, became inmate number 8940. Told there was no budget for special protection, he was sent straight to general population. As he walked into the cell block, the noise stopped, a heavy, predatory silence, hundreds of eyes locked on him, a shank being sharpened somewhere, a voice calling, "Welcome home, officer." He realized then why Elias hadn't killed him on the highway. Death would have been too easy. This, the daily terror, was the true punishment. December 24th, 2023. Oak Haven Cemetery. Frost silvered the ground. Elias knelt at his mother's simple black granite headstone. Hattie Graves, beloved mother, voice of the voiceless, 1951 to 2023, and laid down fresh blue hydrangeas. He called Viper on a burner phone. It's done. The unit is clear. Your discharge papers are backdated. You're officially retired. You don't exist anymore. I know. What will you do? Elias looked at the community center rising in the distance. I'm going to find somewhere quiet, and I'm going to bake. He dropped the phone in a trash can on his way out, walking until his shadow disappeared, and then so did he. 1 year later, November 14th, 2024. The bayou's usual suffocating humidity had broken into a clean autumn breeze. Fitting, since the rot that had plagued Oak Haven for decades was finally scrubbed away. On Sycamore Street, the town gathered to cut the ribbon on the Hattie Graves Community Center, funded by Bullard's seized assets. Newly promoted Lieutenant Brett Higgins, older and harder-eyed now, addressed the crowd. We cannot undo the past, but we have ensured the future. This morning, the governor signed the Hattie Graves Act, mandating oversight for all use of force incidents and ending qualified immunity for officers caught planting evidence. The blue wall hadn't just cracked in Oak Haven, it had shattered. Derek Cole sat in his cell at Angola, having lost 50 pounds and all his hair to stress, disowned by a family that had moved away in shame. Every time the block doors buzzed, he flinched, certain the general population had finally decided it was his time. A life sentence of perpetual fear, the exact fear he'd once inflicted on an old woman in her hallway. Jim Bullard was never formally charged. He simply ceased to exist, reportedly working off a $3 million debt, one shovelful of sand at a time under a Sonoran sun that offered no forgiveness. December 24, 2024. Bar Harbor, Maine. 3,000 miles away, the Atlantic crashed against the rocks as snow fell on a secluded cabin. A man the locals knew only as James kneaded dough by the fire, the lethal tension that once defined him long gone. He pulled a tray of peach cobbler, Hattie's recipe, from the oven, the smell filling the cabin like a sweet reminder of a life he could never return to but honored every day. A secure message buzzed on his burner. The act passed. The town is safe. You can rest, Sierra 1. He tossed the phone into the fireplace, watching it melt, severing his last tie to the violence, and picked up a photo of his mother laughing in her garden, setting a fresh hydrangea cutting beside it. "Justice is done, Mama," he whispered. He took a bite of the cobbler. It tasted like home. The soldier had faded away. The son had finally found his peace. This story is a reminder that the most dangerous thing in the world is a man with nothing left to lose. Hattie Graves represented the innocence we all want to protect. Elias represented the fury that wakes when that innocence is betrayed. While this was fiction, the pain of injustice is real for far too many people every day. If this story moved you, or if you believe justice should be blind and swift, share it with someone who needs to see the good guys win. And stay safe, and watch out for each other.